you should be receiving an email about that, about directing you to go to that site. We had a particularly good year last fiscal year, I thought, given the situation that we're in. We ended up with $661,000 plus dollars, which our goal was 500,000. So I think Barb and I were pretty pleased with that. Let's see. The foundation board is scheduled to meet again on Friday, November, I think it's actually the 20th or 20, well, I have 21st on my report, but look for our year-end appeal coming out too. So, and Keith Capus has done a really good job with helping us draft that information. So other than that, you have, unless you have any questions, I guess we've submitted some more grant applications again this year. So fingers crossed on those.
Kara, do we know how much money that we've gotten from the golf scramble or the bicycling event?
We do not. I have sent to the golf course. They only charge us. They charge us a lower amount of money for members of that course. So I've given them a list of golfers, but I have yet to receive an invoice from them. So I can't give you a final number on that. And they've called me about it, and so I did take that over to them. And the cycling tour was a great success. I mean, a number of us from the college volunteered for that. I'm on the committee, so I was there 3 different days and a lot of the time on Saturday when the event was held. But I will tell you that even given the pandemic, there were 523 cyclists that actually showed up, which I think is a lot. So I fully anticipate that we will get the same amount at least that we got last year, which was $15,000 for scholarships.
Nice.
Yes.
Any other questions? Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Faculty Assembly report. All right.
Hello, everyone. I did provide a report that was in the packet for you. I don't have anything to add, so if you have any questions about what was provided, I'll be happy to try to answer.
Have we gotten any feedback on regarding the tenure?
The last I checked, excuse me. The last I checked on that, we had not gotten an official response. However, there was a statement added on our website for the presidential search section that did say that we were looking for a candidate that would support tenure. So the faculty was really pleased with that statement being added to that. So KCTCS heard us, and we appreciate you all reviewing that resolution. It was passed unanimously, and so that was considered for the presidential search. And the committee members also are for that search committee are familiar with what the faculty is wanting in terms of a candidate that would support that. So.
Any other questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff console update.
Hey everyone, I did not have a report in your files because we had not held our meeting when the reports were due. So I'll give you a brief update. The first staff council meeting for the fiscal year 2021 was called to order at 2:02 p.m. on Friday, September 18th. We approved the previous minutes that were turned in by Beth Weiss. We also discussed the presidential search. The officer team felt that it was a strong need for the voices of the staff council to be heard by the search committee and the board about what we would like to see in a future president, as well as we want the future president to work on to improve student life and the staff work environment. We discussed the different ways to gather ideas from staff council, but decided that a survey would be the best way to go, since open forums often don't get a lot of feedback. The survey was released on Monday. It was a yes or no answer format with a suggestion box below each question. Once the results come in, the officer team is going to review them and compile a list of the top 5 things that we would like this resolution to address. We have some faculty members that are going to be helping us write the resolution so that it is in the proper format, being as this is the first one the staff council has ever written. And we will write that resolution and release it to the staff council members for approval for our October meeting. We had updates by Chris Sears for faculty assembly, ELT updates by Amanda Conley. Janelle Miller spoke to the group about Green Dot and the grant status for that program. Ellen Bowman addressed staff regarding the SSS and that they have available space in their program and what the requirements are for their program. Additionally, they said they made it clear they would assist any student even if they did not have room in their program. And lastly, we had an open forum discussion of what stresses you out. It was a staff opportunity to talk about what's going on at home, some issues they're having with virtual learning, teaching their children as well as working. And that discussion was fairly short and we adjourned about 3 p.m. So that's the update I have for you on that. Any questions?
Well, the staff must not have much stress if it was such a short discussion. That's great to know. You don't have to respond to that. Well, any questions? Well, thank you again. Academic. Programs updates.
Well, you have what's in your packet, and the only addendum I can offer to that is that in preparation for the spring schedule, I had sent out a survey to the college, basically trying to find out how things are going because it seemed like things were going so well this fall. And one of the things top things that came out of that is that we didn't know how our classes were being taught by faculty. So if they're teaching a face-to-face class, will it really be face-to-face or will it involve some type of online platform like Teams or Collaborate? And so we worked through a process to where we can add that information to the online schedule so that students will know exactly how their class will be taught in the spring. Schedules go live October 1st. Next week, we'll spend time reviewing the schedules to make sure they make sense and to see if we have any holes that we need to fill, but we seem to be on track for that. And that's, of course, that's the biggest thing we do right now is to try to get ready for the spring schedule. We are planning for it to be COVID spaced though, so this is the first semester we've got an opportunity to do that. But otherwise, that's the only update I have to what's in the packet. If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Has the system given us any clues to, is this pandemic over with election or is it going to last through the year?
The system has not, but amongst the academic officers, we feel that it will continue on into the spring at least. And so we're planning for that for our spring schedule. The faculty do have the leeway though, that if they are being successful teaching through Collaborate or Teams, that they can have their cap higher than what the room can hold, but with the knowledge that those students will have to watch from home or campus or wherever. But We start preparing the summer and fall schedule in February, so we'll have to take stock then to see if we need to continue that process next year too. One thing I do expect to come out of all this will be some of the blurring of lines between what is considered face-to-face and hybrid and online, because students and faculty are learning how to teach and learn in new ways. So I think it will have a unexpected side benefit for the future with the way we teach our classes. But for now, we're doing very well with what we have to work with.
How are we doing in regards to the technical issues of computers, access to internet and tablets or whatever they need to? How are we doing on that?
I've not heard of any problems. I think that's largely because, unlike the spring, when we were closed, our campuses are open. There's computer labs that are available for students to use. And we also, during the summer, put hotspots out in the parking lots. They're particularly powerful. So if a student is safety conscious, does not have internet at home, they can go to their car and do their work there. So there's plenty of avenues for students to have the technology they need to do it. So I'm not really, the faculty have not reported to me that they're having any access problems.
So now that winter is coming, I bet I won't say it. If winter is coming and you see cars with a lot of steams on the window, you just assume that they're learning something.
They're learning something, yeah.
Don't put it in the record.
Great.
I have a question. This just shows my ignorance. Please explain to me what cohort means. in the term.
Cohort? That's when a group of students are accepted, like the freshman fall cohort. Let's say the program, like the nursing program, that's the students who are admitted for that particular semester, and they'll go through that program together.
Oh, okay.
I try to avoid edu-speak, but sometimes it slips in.
No. You could have written the whole thing out. It would have taken all of it to explain it to me.
It's kind of like general education classes where you have lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds taking the classes, and that may be the only class they ever take together. In a technical program, chances are they're going to take exactly the same classes for the next 2 years together. And so they become a cohort.
I like that.
Because we're selective admission, so whoever, like Dr. Ware said, is picked, say 100 people apply for the RN program at one of the campuses, and whoever is picked, let's say we take 40 of them, because that's pretty much what we take historically, then those 40 stay together that entire 2-year period. Granted, you'll have some maybe fall away, but they can do, another reapplication, and then they'll pick up where another cohort's already begun. And I will say, in support of Russ and Dr. Ware, I know they was able to help us with laptop computers as faculty. So we have our office on the go is what I call it, because I hook it up every morning and take it out every afternoon. And that's been a blessing, because in especially allied health, we have to plan so far ahead. And we went to a new ExamSoft system where we're actually testing online, so our program doesn't get shut down if something would happen. Because there's some things we have to do face-to-face, such as clinical with students. You can't teach somebody to IB Zoom. You might try it, but it wouldn't be what I want somebody to teach me for, I'd like for you to practice on something before you touch me. But they put that in place. It's been very helpful. And of course, the ExamSoft has kind of been a learning thing, because we give big exams in nursing. And so it takes a lot of time to load all those questions on. But it's been a lifesaver, because we do have students that maybe they're just out for, stomach virus, or they got sinusitis. We don't know if it's COVID yet or whatever. So those two avenues allows us, or the parking lot, as Russ talked about too, it allows us to have students where they can test, but not necessarily be in the building, because it might still be a possibility they have the virus. So it doesn't shut everything down, because the spring was rough when we got shut down and said, we got to go. The governor says we got to go. So we put a lot of places that really shored up well, and sometimes the community didn't always know that, but I appreciate them both, and others at the college that made that happen. Brady IT department, because to have your office on the go for a nursing instructor it's a blessing. It really is. I can't thank them enough, because like I said, we're just constantly in that computer constantly, and it keeps us from stalemating our program, and we can continue to move on if the virus doesn't become an outrage directly.
I have actually, thank you. A question, kind of thinking a little bit quite ahead of time, but are you at all working, beginning to think about what will happen, let's say, a year or 2 years from now? Basically, last year was a loss of academic years in our high schools and the rest of the grades, actually, K-12. And this year, it probably be pretty much of a wasted year also in those grades. So those kids that will come to college, or those are already that actually are here now that didn't really have, but normally at 12th grade, they don't really learn much in school. But the grades below it, I mean, they'll be really under, how shall I say, unprepared and somewhat uneducated to be at the college level. Are we beginning to think how to remediate it and to help them, to bring them to par, so it'll be more likely than not, it will take years to catch up.
Well, it's something we've really been dealing with for a long time anyway. It's not that they're not doing their jobs, but we do get students who are unprepared. And so remedial education, and the real big thing right now is co-requisite remediation, where they may lack certain skills within English or mathematics. And we work with them on those skills and not basically start them at the lowest level. We do not have a placement policy right now that was suspended for this year. And so the co-requisite model is very important for our students or even our adult students who come in. So they don't have to spend time in developmental remedial classes. They can start in what they need and get help as they need it. So even if that's true, we have the mechanisms to make sure these students are not left behind.
Good, and I'm very worried because we were actually promoting this a few years ago to try to, with our high school systems in a different town and in our general area, that we have that problem. But I think that'll be much more acute in the next couple of years, actually. And in a way, because we're already doing it at the college, we'll be able to promote it and actually get more students because they'll not be ready for UK or for more aid of the state or to go for the higher level. They'll actually need us and want to come here to get it to bring them up to par. So maybe we should begin to kind of look a little boosting that program, for lack of better words. What do you say, Ross?
Well, I think that's right in the sense of enhancing that. But I think what we have seen progressively over the last few years, and not excluding the pandemic, I think as we've moved more towards whether you want to call it remedial or foundational or development, whatever the buzzword is for that year, I think we've become very in tune to being able to deal with those students effectively.
That's great.
I think we see that by our pass rates, by our graduation rates. And, I think, you got an expert right there in public education. So.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say. I feel like we were able to get about 75% of the school year in last year. Like Dr. Ware said, school districts as well are very well equipped to handle children that need interventions. That's always been in existence. Just to give you an example, I can think of a circumstance with a student that we had in our school district last year that had started and was 2 grade levels behind in reading. I think there had been a lack of probably formal education. It was a student coming from a homeschool situation. And we were very concerned, but I think with the interventions that we have in place, I mean, school districts too have a lot of support systems with intervention programs, particularly in math and reading. By the end of the school year, that student was caught up and on grade level. So, at this point, I feel like we have the support systems in place. I don't feel like that, we were out too long that we can't make it up. Certainly there will be, a lot of other factors that are going to come into play because it was, every student. And then you have the whole social, emotional, mental health issues on top of that, which kind of compounds, the academic piece as well, makes it a little more challenging. But I'm very optimistic that we will recover probably faster than, you might expect.
Yeah, I think so. I think based on what we've seen, and I think as the school systems get back in to their normal routines, and that will happen. Now, whether that happens this 9 weeks, the next 9 weeks, or even after the holidays, I think that, and I will say this about our faculty and staff here, I think we have, in a very short period of time, learned a lot of new ways and become very innovative and not, and it was kind of forced on us. But I think the reality is that if there is any silver lining to a pandemic, it has pushed us to learn new ways of teaching, to learn new modalities. And, at community college, you have every type of student. We get everybody. And I think that we have found in the last 4 or 5 months, 6 months, I guess now, since we closed, I was really concerned about this. I didn't know how we were going to do this, but I'm amazed at how adaptive people came, especially within our tech programs and in our allied health, the true program. Gen Ed kind of was already in this. I mean, we were already teaching online. We knew how to do this. But I think the adaptations that they found, researching software, looking at different learning modes and students, it really, I have really been amazed. I was worried. I'll be perfectly honest. When all this started and we talked about it in ELT, to be honest, I just thought this is going to be a disaster. And it hasn't been. And it's simply because people saw the need and we recognized they identified student needs. I was talking with the division chair in our tech programs today, and they talked about the way they had adapted and how they had begun working in shifts with their students. So they may actually be getting more education because it's smaller groups at a time. Instead of having 12 students around a car, you got 4 or 3. And they're getting that much more information from the instructor. Now, is it ideal? It depends on the instructor. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than I think anyone anticipated that it would be, at least at our level. And I think every school district has faced very different
And I have to say, March until May, everyone was just pretty much shell-shocked. I mean, we were just trying to get our bearings, but we mobilized. We did a lot of planning in the summer. And I can tell you from what I've observed since we started virtually in August is effective instruction. Whereas it probably wasn't as much for the couple of months when it all first just happened and just literally in a day we had to transition to virtual. We're actually seeing, some unexpected outcomes too, where virtual learning programs that we're using, there's some kids that's actually thriving and actually doing better and really more engaged. That's been a real eye-opener and just I think it's going to be something that, is going to be a value that we will continue in our school districts. But as far as the teaching and the instruction too, students are engaged, whereas in the spring, we were struggling to get students to participate. It was totally different mindset. And I think there was just more planning and the expectations were there. We had time to really do a good job of getting those academic planned and getting this implementation ready so that we have had 100% contact with every one of our students. And I know we're small, so it may look a little differently in other districts. However, on an average, we're having anywhere from 80 to 90% participation every day. So that many kids are actually online and engaged with their teachers.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm not really surprised that this college has done well because we have a great faculty and staff that actually care about the student body. And that's been going on for years now, and we're blessed with the faculty and staff that really want to educate, and I think it shows, obviously, in the result. I mean, that's great.
Well, as my grandmother always said, proof was in the pudding. I never quite understood that, but that's what she said. But I think going back to what you just said, I think looking at the faculty and staff, I mean, when March hit, we threw everybody was thrown into a tailspin. No one has dealt with this before, and no one had to adapt to this type of teaching modality on that scale, I should say. And I'll commend all of our faculty and staff because, and I've sat in the meeting with all 16 presidents and listened to what's went on at every college. And there have been a few, I don't want to say horror stories, but difficult. And that's not to say we didn't have some, but these folks stepped up. We could have had people complaining, we could have had people whining and crying, say, oh, you know what, that didn't happen. Now, that's not to say there weren't concerns in areas, but it was more in a way of, we're concerned about this, but how can we fix it? Right? And let's jump in. So it's been tough, but I have to say, I can't think of a group of people that I would have rather worked with through this than the folks sitting around here, the folks online, and all the folks that are, if you're watching on YouTube, and I mean that. And I've told them that time and time again. I mean, I didn't do it, they did. It was a team effort. So.
Just a little bit of research I did this summer with our pass rates. You typically have about a 6% failing rate, which is amazing. With the spring, it was only up 6% to 12%. There's plenty of colleges that wish their failure rate was 12% in a good year. So I think that we do well. And the fact that our dual credit students do so well in classes is a testament to what the high schools do. Because when they come to us as a dual credit student, they do well too. Their success rates are as good as the ones who are there. So we probably have some gaps somewhere, but I think we're doing better than most. And
Well, since you started to talk about dual credit.
What did they play?
I didn't want to take her thunder away.
Yeah. You're turning in on dual credit.
Oh, no, that's Emily.
All right, sorry, Emily.
Okay, good evening. I don't know how much
Good
thunder there is there, but so I did provide a report for you guys. The only update that I can give you right now since I submitted my report is we were looking really good for our general education students for dual credit. Our numbers were up. I kind of expected that because we saw more students who were going virtual with their school districts who, decided to do dual credit as opposed to, not doing it if they were sitting in the classroom. We are not struggling, but we are down with our career and technical dual credit. And that is system wide. I was on a peer team today with the other colleges, and we are all stressing the concern of low numbers for career tech. A lot of it is because most of these students are doing virtual. They haven't, come back to in-person classes yet. So, I have a meeting tomorrow. There's several of us statewide that are going to be looking at ways to reach out to those students. In normal circumstances, I would visit their ATCs or their high schools. I would talk to them about dual credit, help them register, help them apply. The online virtual way is a little tough because they aren't really understanding what they're doing and why they're doing it. So we're looking at some ways to try to improve that. But that is about all I have for an update. I'm sure you guys have questions because there's always questions with dual credit.
Any questions? Silence here in this room. I have no questions for you. Is there a way to try to get them to come here to talk to somebody or to the different colleges, locations to
That is one of the,
look into it?
yeah, we're looking at different avenues to do that. Sometimes it's a little more difficult because, for example, in Montgomery County ATC, they have over 300 students, and they're a large part of our numbers for dual credit. So in most cases, that's a 2-day event for me. So I will go there and visit with them, and they'll bring them in by class and we'll talk. So, in certain situations, certain area technology centers, we could do that, but some of them are very large. So it's a little more difficult to get them to come on their own. So a lot of times it takes a collaborated effort between myself and the teachers and the ATC principals to have them even understand what they're doing and why they're doing it as dual credit, or the option to do the class as dual credit.
Any other questions?
I'll just say that lady is a one-lady shop, and she does an excellent job. I don't know how she does it all. Dr. Ware, he works with her very closely, and I think he'd agree. She's amazing, and many accolades to her, because I don't know how she does it. Because she does that for every campus and all the schools she has, and she's responsible for. I don't know how she gets it done. I really don't. And that's not even counting the pandemic on a good day. That's a hard job. So she does a good job. Emily, thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you. Next, enrollment report.
Jessica could not be with us tonight. Her report's included in here. As far as enrollment has gone, system-wide enrollment has been down. All of the colleges, the system numbers have changed just a little bit. I think the numbers I saw on Tuesday, the system as a whole is down about 8%. And that's fairly large. Some of the colleges are down in the teens. We are currently at we're a little below 3%. I think the number I saw was 2.9%. So the system is really, really good. We expected and planned for up to about 10% because we just really, with everything that was going on, we didn't know if people would come back. I know in speaking with, I speak with MSU's president about every week, and they have really taken some hits because of the dorms. Unfortunately, we don't have dorms and athletic teams, so we don't have to deal with a lot of the things universities are dealing with. But this appears to be a national trend. It isn't just us. Of course, that affects revenue, as Barb will talk about, and we were very aware of that and planned for it. So to say right now that we're at below 3%, I'm pretty happy about that. Now, granted, I'd like for it to be 0 or plus 3%, but the reality is that's just not going to happen. But overall, and again, this goes back to our recruiters, our program faculty and faculty, everyone's been, when we started the semester, it was all hands on deck. We were calling students, we were trying to get them in, talk them through situations. The financial aid was bombarded with folks. And, I think a lot of people waited till the last minute or even the week of classes because they just simply didn't know what they wanted to do or what was going to happen. And I think we got on this issue early enough in the summer, talking about how our classes were going to start. We were going to be open, putting out how we were going to hopefully protect folks while they were here. And overall, I'm very pleased. I hate to see a negative number, but the reality is, for us, this negative number has turned into a positive compared to many of the other schools within the system. So.
Good.
Yeah.
I'd say once we come out of this, and we'll probably, as a country, will start moving forward, we'll see it.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to see an uptick. And again,
People will have to retrain in different fields, different ways. A lot of stuff is going to change, and it's practically impossible at this point to predict what it will be or in what direction, but it's good.
I do have a question. I noticed on the billboard down in Maysville about the real world. How are we getting this message to the students that we're hoping to attract?
Brady, you want to address that from a marketing standpoint, and then I'll address it in some other ways?
Sure. In classroom time has obviously gone down since March, but screen time has gone way up. So we have utilized what I have to guess is probably the most extensive digital marketing campaign in the history of college. It's not only were we promoting the general college for the real world, but also targeting specific programs that we knew weren't necessarily in trouble, but needed a little bit of help. So we implemented general search engine marketing, retargeting campaigns through Facebook. If you, Barb and I talk about this a lot, if you're shopping for a particular item and then you're on Facebook later that day and that item pops up in your feed, we implemented the same type of technology for our summer and the fall campaign. And the plan is to continue to do that from now on. It was pretty effective, and no reason to stop now.
And I think with our recruiters are reaching out to the school systems, I think probably with a doubled effort to talk about these things and, having virtual discussions with folks and providing those times for, as our faculty have made contact with students and new students and as we've ushered them in. And I think as Brady said, the largest media blitz we've ever done, especially through social media and through our web pages. And I think just providing that information and then following that up with calls and talks with students. If we can get them in the door somehow, whether it's the virtual door or the physical door, we've got it. And I think with the emphasis of as a society and even in this state, I mean, if you look in this county here alone, and that's not including all the other counties that we operate in, there are 500 jobs that will occur in the next 3 months right behind us, between the Cooperage and App Harvest, which is a new concept in agriculture. We've been working with them through our workforce solutions to do onboarding and training of their folks. And these companies are seeing, I mean, at all 4 of our campuses, you've got this ability to send people that you work with right next door. So, for the real world, not just the new students, but I think what we're going to capitalize on is a lot of these individuals that have lost their jobs and are looking for a new way to provide for their family. And I really think that's where the growth is going to happen right now, because as we see infrastructure beginning to grow again, it takes welders and plumbers and HVAC. And we just did an article, what was it, was it May? In Kentucky Living, where they highlighted our college and the things that we were doing and talking about successful businesses that had basically grown out of this college, preparing people for the real world. And it was a great article, and we got a lot of notice for that. But again, and I think, we're very concerned and focused on our students that want to transfer to the four-year universities, and we work with them. Advisors work with them, our career counseling, our academic success coaches work with these individuals. And I think on the career tech side and the allied health side, and even on the business and IT programs, these individuals are connected enough with industry that these students get to actually see what, I'm learning this, here's how I apply it and where I'll apply it. And I think that's what separates us a lot of times from the four-year university. So when we say we're preparing them for the real world, that's what we're doing. I can remember when I was in class, I always told the students, I said, look, this is a trial run that you're in right now. Coming to class on time, meeting deadlines. These are all soft skills that prepare them for the real world. And that's what industry's asking for. I don't think, and Barb knows this from her workforce days, I don't think there's ever been an industry we talked to where one of the first things they said was, we need our students to have these soft skills. And how do they get them? So we focus on that. And I think that this real world concept falls under that is we want that student to walk out of the door, go to wherever it is they're going, and have that foundation built that, whether they go to Toyota will teach them the Toyota way, but they got to have that foundational skills, those real world. So I think that's what that's all about. And I think we've done a really good job with it. Again, I think that goes back, that's why our enrollment's at the level that it is. Again, it's not where I'd like for it to be. Again, I'd like for it to be +3, not -3.
You're comparing.
Mm-hmm.
When you're comparing to others, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it is very good. I looked at the system numbers. I was very, very pleased with how we were, where we were at.
Okay. Budget.
That'd be me. In your packet, you actually have two different budget sheets. One is just a recap of where we ended up unofficially for fiscal year 20, which ended on June 30th of this year. We will get official notification from the system office of exactly where we end up in October or early November, but I do believe that this is, pretty close. We had originally thought that we would be perhaps even in the red a little bit, a very slight amount, but a little bit by the end of the year, just because of everything that happened and COVID and everything. But thanks to CARES funds, we were able to charge back some salaries from last year, and so that's put us in the positive. So you can see in the fourth column from the left, the bottom line is $403,599. So, again, that might be off a little bit, but it does look like we'll be up around $400,000, which ends up being carry forward money, which we can either save or use as needed. Any questions about last year's budget and actuals?
Where did you put the income from the CARES?
That's a very good question. Because it's not very obvious in this report, but it is actually a credit against the transfers. So if you look in the revenue, the second line down where it says transfers, the way this is, because we credited it in this fiscal year and then they had to back charge it to last fiscal year, it shows up as a credit to the transfer. So it's kind of, see, instead of them, it looks like they didn't transfer all the money out that the system office typically takes, but it was a credit against that. So the 465,000 that you see in the very right-hand column is indicative of that, plus some other money that they transferred as well. I should add those footnotes to help explain that. Okay, moving on to this fiscal year's budget. Of course, we're only, this report reflects only the first 2 months of the fiscal year. So, certainly a lot of activity still to happen. Usually at this time of the year, the fall tuition is of utmost, priority. So we have gained a little bit on this since this report was written. We're up right a little bit over $5 million now for fall tuition as opposed to the 4.8 that shows here. That is still about $500,000 short of our budget, but we still have midterm classes. We have additional dual credit students, even though they might not be quite as high as we had anticipated. We will still have some income generated. So that's where we are as of today. Overall, at this time last year, we had spent about 17% of our budget as opposed to 15% this year. So, we're pretty close overall to where we were last year. Are there any specific questions about this report? It's early in the year, so there's not, a lot of activity yet, but.
Barb, what's SEEK? SEEK?
SEEK are dollars that we get for teaching high school students. So like our carpentry program at Rowan and
That's pretty good.
yeah, welding, etc. So those are dollars that we get for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We have money in the bank?
Yes, we do have money in the bank, and we might need it because there's never any question about that, is there? But so since you brought that up, you may be reading in the news where educational institutions, both public and post-secondary, are being asked to think about a potential 8% cut in state funding.
I was just about to ask about
Yeah.
coming up in the legislation. I mean,
Right,
right.
right.
Where are we on that? What's the word?
Well, that's the word right now, is a potential 8%. Now, that does take legislative action in order to do anything over 5%, but right now it is only a request to plan for that. It is not a mandate or, any type of firm action at this point, but and public schools and secondary have been asked to take a look at that. So KCTCS did ask us to submit a plan. 8% for us is about just a little less than $445,000. So it is significant. Although everything you read in the news now is that the general revenue is up. So as far as Kentucky state revenue right now. So who knows? But this is what they've asked us to plan. So again, no final action at this point, nothing that we have to implement, but we did have to send in a plan. So you talk about money in the bank, and that, if we had to use some of our non-recurring funds in order to weather at this time, that would be a possibility. We also have had some positions that were vacated for one reason or another that we have not filled at this time, just waiting to see how the fall semester went. And, we anticipated that this budget cut, as I think everyone in education and throughout all of state government anticipated, that there could be a reduction. So we have some positions that we haven't filled that would allow us to have some salary savings that would help to offset any potential cut that we might be asked to take. We were asked to take a 1% or plan for a 1% before the end of last fiscal year, and it ended up that we didn't have to take it. So again, we put the plan together, submitted it to KCTCS, but in the end, we didn't have to take it. So it's better to plan and not have to take it than to be caught, without a plan. And I feel like that's kind of where we are right now. But then again, this did come down from the state budget director, I'm sure directed by the governor to do so. So, but again, nothing final at this point.
We all know KERS could send arrows our way, as they will everyone. how do we handle that in the future?
Well, actually, last year we had to set money aside for KERS, and for us, that was about $460,000. In the end, we had a reprieve and we didn't have to take that. We have a reprieve again this year, so we don't have to pay KERS, but it certainly is something that's constantly looming over our budget. Our dollar amount was $460,000 as people retire. That does lessen our dollar amount, so don't expect that necessarily to go higher, although it could if the percentage goes up, but it can also drop if people retire. But we've tried to plan for that. We've tried to set money aside as we can, as positions aren't filled, and put it in some recurring dollars to set aside for if this does happen to us, or not just to us, but if it happens and we have to absorb the cost. But then, you plan for an 8% cut, and some of those kind of reserves that you had hoped to have for things like CARES, then that ends up kind of absorbing that. So I don't know. We do, non-recurring funds might have to carry us through for a year or two if that does happen, but it definitely would hurt. That's a lot of money to
It's
think
all
about.
speculation at this point. No one really has the crystal ball.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I know that, but it
Fortunately for Kentucky, in a way, despite all the stuff that's happened, our economy is so diverse that it held pretty good. Even though we had probably more unemployment percentage-wise, my feeling is most of those people were not employed to begin with. So, from what I know, even from just Harrison County, it's just people that actually went and applied for the fear they could get the money. It's not like, I don't know, actually, we still have a lot of manufacturers that can't find workers. Well, that's great. Any other questions on the budget? Keep the money in the bank.
We're trying. We are trying, as every other institution is.
I appreciate the good work. Really do. Campus updates.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a quick report for all of them, and I'll let the three campus directors can jump in and submit your reports. Since our last meeting, really, there's not been a whole lot going on other than things we've talked about, simply because, we've been close to the public for about 3 months early on, and right now we have no outside groups coming in. Basically, that was kind of a KCTCS decision to try to help keep our students and folks safe and not have a lot of cleaning, because, basically what all the campuses have had to do is over the course of summer, and the CARES Act helped a lot with this. We had to basically plan on how we're going to keep our facilities sanitized and safe. And, Dr. Ware and his group of campus directors basically had to go through and look at room capacities, how we were going to keep people 6 feet apart. We spent some of our CARES fund, a lot of our CARES fund on supplies, just in addition to what we would normally do. And I think a lot of times think about, you go to water fountain or bathroom, and these things are just there. Well, these things cost a lot of money. And what we have found over the course of the last 3 months, everything's gone sky high. Building materials, consumables that we use have all went up. And so what the campuses have been focused on is how to utilize those funds at the campuses the most appropriate way, and how we can make things safe. And one of the things that the campuses put into place, if you was to walk around, and I don't think there's one in this room, because this room, it does get used for classes primarily now, especially nursing and alignment, because they're very large programs. We need to spread people out. We went and kind of did what hotels have done for years, and we bought tags. And there's was it a red side and a blue side? And the blue side basically indicates that a room has been sanitized and that you can go into it and use it. As soon as a faculty member leaves that classroom, they flip that over and it's red and it says it needs to be sanitized. So one of the things we did was a year or so back, we were introduced to a sanitizing concept that uses electrostatic cleaning, which basically means it connects to every part of an item. You just don't get the top, you get it all. So this last year, we found out about a new machine, a fogger, that does the same thing. So this room right here, I could bring this fog machine in here and in about 2 minutes sanitize this entire room for a couple bursts. We bought one for every custodian. So as they planned their academic schedule, we planned from the maintenance facility side, we plan around when to go in these rooms and to clean. So we know when a room needs to be cleaned. We've got it on a schedule. The facilities folks know the times of the day people are in the buildings. And because we're still at 50% capacity, rooms that we're not using, we just lock them up and leave.
How much was those machines? If I may ask.
I think we spent about, what, 12 or 13,000?
Yeah, I think they were about 1,000.
Yeah, about 1,000 pieces. We got 14 of them. And this caught on like wildfire through the system. I think we were probably the first of the 16 colleges to even have any of this equipment. And so, we put up sanitizing stations and every office has wipes and bigger jars of this stuff. And so, we made every effort.
Plastic shields.
Oh yeah, we've got desk shields. So if you're meeting with somebody, you've got some type of a barrier. So we did everything based on the recommendations, and when we put together the plan for the campuses of how they were going to deal with the pandemic, we knew the faculty and staff would deal with students the way they've always dealt with them in new ways with computers and doing virtual. But we knew at some point we would return to campuses. So we had to have a plan on how we were going to keep people safe and put in protocols at all the campuses. So this was a lot of the focus this year, as opposed to in the summers having a lot of extra programs, kids camps. We just didn't do that. And because of what we've done, and I don't want to steal Rebecca's thunder, Rebecca Morton, campus director at Montgomery, has served as our Healthy at Work officer, which we were required to have. This is the person that deals with making sure we're following these procedures, ensuring that if we get someone that's sick, how we're going to deal with that, what's the operation, if we have to close the room down. So all those procedures are in place. As of today, since we have implemented all this over the course of summer, we have had only 3 cases, positive cases of COVID. They have all been external, meaning they got them somewhere else than here. That's really pretty amazing compared to a lot of the other schools. Fortunately, we have not had any faculty or staff yet. We've had some that have had to go get tested. I had to go get tested Monday because we were exposed last Friday and we went and did rapid tests. Luckily, all of us were negative because, again, we had a mask on, we social distance, we practice all of the CDC guidelines, and it works. And I applaud Rebecca and all the campus directors for all the work they've done with this, because it's been on them. I mean, this is on their shoulders to keep us safe. And they've done an excellent job. Maintenance and operations. If there was an area where I wish I could hire 10 more people, it would be there, because you've got Montgomery campus has a person and a half. LBC has 1. Maysville's got 5. Brown's got, we have 3.5, but we have 1 individual right now who's in the hospital with some serious health conditions, not COVID related. So we've been shorthanded here. Everyone has stepped up. We've tried to do some projects on all the campuses of making sure we have social distancing in our classes. That means we've had to store things. Barb mentioned the CARES Act. One of the things that we used, the funds that we could use for the institution, half the money had to go to students, but the other half was for the institution. And as Dr. Sim said, looking at buying computers, we bought 200 laptops to basically equip our faculty and staff to work remotely. Cameras, microphones. And, you know, this came from a lot of different people working together. So, you know, if, again, as I've said many times, and I try to tell them that as often as I can, this truly has been a team effort. And, you know, and telling the board, you know, I think if there was ever a moment of pride for the board or the college, it's been how folks here have reacted to this. I mean, no one person could do this. So it has truly been a team effort. And you know, it's been amazing to see. You know, I kept imagining in my head all of these problems that were going to occur and there'd be some resistance. That happened. So I was happy to eat crow on that one, that these things didn't happen. But the campuses want to get back in gear. We're probably going to be at a 50% status and probably through all the semester. I don't imagine the governor's going to lift that from all indications that we're hearing. You could. I mean, this is still a very fluid situation. But we have done everything within our power to keep people safe. We put these things online. We have had very few issues with students not wanting to do what we've asked them. Same with faculty and staff. I hope you're proud because I have not seen a team effort like this in a long time. And we're always a team, and you know, we look at ourselves as the MCTC family, and all families have their moments. But we've had a shining moment for the last 6 months. I mean, we really have. And we're still got some projects that we need to complete around the campuses. You know, we have saved some project money, which we call Fund 61 account. That money can only be used on projects and facilities. So part of my plan in my other job as COO was to start focusing a little bit on the Maysville campus because it is the oldest of our campuses. It needs some work. We went in and did a lot of painting this summer. Walls that probably haven't been painted in 20 years.
Probably.
So
And they
touch that up. We're going to try to get the president's office area and all that ready for whoever the next president, when they come in. We've got some sidewalks we need to fix, but you know, again, that's not money that will come out of the budget. That's money that we have saved and can only be used on projects. So, you know, we're looking at those projects and begin to prioritize them. You know, we've had this campus about a month ago got hit by a lightning strike. And right now we're still finding things that have went bad. It burned out generator controls, lighting controls. So right now we're up to about $30,000 for repairs, which will turn into insurance, and state risk will help us with that. We're not going to get that money tomorrow, but you know, we've had to prepare for things like that. The Montgomery campus got hit last spring with some leakage in the roof that did some damage to walls and windows. We had to repair that. You know, LVC a couple years ago, we had to redo the roof. So I don't want anyone to think that the campuses aren't doing everything. We're just not having a lot of activity, and a lot of that is simply based on the fact I want the students to be safe, and I want our faculty and staff to be safe. I would love to skate through this interim period as president and say, this is all we had. And we're doing very well. And some of the colleges have implemented some of the practices that we're doing because they've worked. And so my kudos to all the folks that work here for making that happen.
Can we hear from the campus?
Yeah, Rebecca, you want to say a few words about your campus?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. I do want to say that I want to thank Russ for his leadership. There is no skating through a pandemic, but his leadership has been great, and I've been thankful for that for him during this time. He's made everything that we've had to do a lot easier. So thank you, Russ, for that. You know, it's one of those things right now on campus where it looks like there's not a lot going on the outside, but there is a lot going on. Like Russ said, there's a lot of behind the scenes efforts. It's quiet. There aren't a lot of students on campus. It's very different. But, you know, we're still trucking through and plugging along just the same. But there are no real changes to anything specific other than what I had included in the report.
Lori?
Hi, everyone. I copy everything Rebecca and Russ said, but I also need to give kudos to the LVC team here. It takes all of us, like Russ was saying, to make good things happen and keep the yuckness of the pandemic out of these walls. So kudos to the LVC team. I don't have anything to add to my report. Like Rebecca said, there's still a lot going on the inside, and we are just doing the best we can and hoping this is over soon. Does anybody have any questions for me?
How you doing on food?
We are doing, we're doing okay on food. There's not a lot of foot traffic right now, but we have been promoting the food pantry through the classes and emails and such. So right now we're in good shape, but I promise you I will definitely call you if it starts depleting. I'm kind of thinking it may start depleting around, the holidays, Thanksgiving and such. So I'll probably be in touch with you in the late fall.
Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.
And I'll ask Maggie. Maggie is one of our success coaches, but she's taken over the role as the campus director here at Brown, as I play president for a few more months. And more likely we'll stay in that role so I can do more with the COO role, thank goodness. But Maggie, you want to?
Sure. So I got to start in June, and Russ, thanks to Russ and all of our maintenance staff and Donna, there's no way that we could have been able to open the doors for our students without those people. Our maintenance were here. I can't even count the hours. They're there every time I see them with we call them their Ghostbuster machines. And they're in there killing the germs. They do a great job, and they do it with a smile, which makes it even better. But yeah. That's about it.
Yeah, and it's amazing. If they complain, they don't complain to me. Now, they might be complaining behind my back, calling me all kinds of things, but it's all right. I'm a good boy. I can handle it.
I would vote that if Avi ever has an extra big box of the chocolate to die for cakes that he brings to us, if he could ever, because you said there's not a lot of them, if he could bring a box to each campus in time for those folks, because they are the unseen heroes. You talk about essential workers.
Well, what I want to say is, even a great orchestra, and we have one here, need a great conductor. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. But, I think looking at the facilities folks, as Maggie said, through this whole situation where we closed down and sent people home, those people didn't go home. They were here. I know because I was with them. When we sent everybody home, the campus directors, Dr. Basic and myself, the highlights of our days were driving to campus. There was no one here. It was just us getting the mail. And I became a great scanner. I learned all kinds of new things that I hadn't done before.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I told my wife, I said, I'm excited about going to get the mail. I don't know what that says, but and Dr. Basic would be on campus and we would talk about, wow, this person got a lot of mail today. And I know you got a lot, I'm sure, because I know our business manager here, Lisa, it seemed like every piece of mail I had went to her. And I thought, she's going to hate me. But she gets to hate me back and having me sign all these forms. That kind of stuff like that. So, but overall, you know, the campuses are in good shape. As you remember, we were doing an energy savings program. That is complete now. We've already seen some return on our investment there.
Sure, the lights were out.
Yeah. It's, you know, we have also, just to add a few more things, Brady and I have been looking at, and Barbie, some others, we're kind of looking at how to brand the college more around the campuses to make them look more. I mean, if you go to NKU or Morris, everywhere you go, there's an M or an NK. We're beginning to do that here too. You know, even things like you see the trash cans have got our emblems on them, but we're beginning to do that and really promote our students. We're going to start this month in October, a student of the month, that we've put a form out there and we've already got submissions for October. So every campus will have a plaque with that student's picture in it. And, you know, it's, you know, they're not winning an Oscar or winning money or anything like that, but, you know, any way we can celebrate our students, we're going to start doing that more. So we'll have our first student announced. I think I'll do that next week. And hopefully our next president will carry that through. But we're just trying to do more that emphasizes on celebrating our successes, because we do have a lot of those. And mainly celebrating our students. We just recently had one of our students elected to the KCTCS Board of Regents. She went to her first meetings last week, and she was very nervous, but, you know, she did great. And, you know, what a great opportunity for this young woman to get to experience and basically sit in the room with some of the leaders in the state and on the same level and have conversations. And of course, we have Dr. Foltz, who works for us, who is a faculty rep to the board. So it's unusual to see two people from the same college on the systems board. And had Rhonda Rose not moved on to brighter things, we would have had three people. So I think that's a testament to the folks here, that they're recognized from a system level that, you know, we've got great people. And I know it sounds like I'm singing their praises, but that's not hard to do. And, you know, it can be, having taught for 30 years, it can be sometimes a thankless job at times. And it can be a hard job at times. But then there's other times like graduations and when we can celebrate their successes and, you know, go to a doctor's office or go to our house was flooded a couple of weeks back because of an HVAC issue. Not because we had floods here in the county, but because of this. Two individuals showed up at the door, were two former students. They had my problem fixed in about 10 minutes. And, you know, it kind of felt like the proud father baby that, you know, our kids had done so well. And I talked about these students to the other presidents. You know, we do celebrations. And I said, look, I'm going to celebrate. This may seem not that important to you all, but I actually got to see our product, our students and what they achieved, putting those skills to work and being professional and doing such a good job. And that was a really, you know, that made me feel good to think that, you know, I might have had just a little part in that somewhere, maybe indirectly, but looking back at the faculty that trained these individuals and allowed them to become those productive citizens and contribute, that's great. I mean, that's what it's about. That's all it's about. And again, it's because of these folks right here.
Russ, I have a question. You were going to honor one student. Why not do one for each campus?
Well, I think we're going to move that way. I think this is just to kind of get things started. And I think with everything going, we thought about doing one. And I think maybe as we move, and I want to see how many nominations we're going to get, because we're asking for, you know, why are you nominating this student? And this is kind of a presidential thing. President gets to pick this individual. I think we will. We've talked about that. Brady and Amanda have helped me a lot with that maybe we can do it for each campus. And then maybe at the end of the year, there'll be one selected amongst them and kind of like we do with some of our student speakers at graduation and honor them some way. But we want to kind of do this and hopefully make it something down the road. This is just the beginning. I would like to make this, I don't want it to become too complicated, but I want it to be a way for us to recognize students. And yes, I think that's a great idea, and I think we'll move towards that. I think just initially, just trying to get it started, we want to see how it goes. And so far, we have that student pick for October. We'll announce that next week, and it's a very deserving individual. And then we'll go from there, and hopefully it'll grow, and we can do it on each campus and get students involved. And again, it's, you know, I have pushed the theme on the faculty and staff. Dr. Basic always had a theme of different, better, and purposeful. And what I decided in my short term to do was to take one of those three. And I have asked everybody to focus on act with purpose. Everything we should do, we should act with purpose. There should be a reason why we're doing these things. I think we're different. I think we're better. And I think what we do is purposeful, but I think we need to do that with each other, with our students and the community. And I think we're going to achieve that very well. So that's my goal for the year.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, one other thing. I'm sorry, Barb. Thank you, Barb. Wait, if I didn't Barb, I'd be in trouble. I don't know how many of you all know about the moon maze. That's good. That makes this easy.
Yeah.
Missy does. Some of us do. It's been around a while. The moon maze was an art project that happened. What, Missy?
Before my time.
Missy's only, she's only 25, so she didn't remember that. It's been around probably since the 70s, maybe. And the concept was at the Maysville campus, they planted all of these shrubs, which no one ever took care of, and they just went kind of crazy. And when they redid 68, they probably cut a fourth or more out. So it's not really anything now, it's just a big junk. I'm going to take that out because it's a mess.
Nothing like it.
Yeah, and you know, I'm sure that will probably stir a little bit of an issue with some folks, but the community never took care of it like they were supposed to. The college didn't have the manpower. The artist, while I appreciate his concept, he really put the wrong types of bushes in to do anything like this.
That person that donated the money for this probably got it.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't even know who that is, but it's
Charlie would know.
Charlie would know.
No one's talking about that person that they gave that money.
But it's time for it to go. And maybe we can come up with something else that we can do there, and maybe even a way to honor what that was. Because the concept is really neat. It's all the phases of the moon over the course of the year. And in concept, and we've got a poster of it. If you'd like to see it here at Mayfield, we'd be happy to show it to you. But it's not even a 3/4 moon. So it's kind of lost its artistic vision.
We've been talking about it for quite a few
Yeah.
years. I think it's time to bring the dozer.
We have been talking about it, and so I figure while I'm interim, and if people that don't want to see that happen are mad, they can be mad at me, and I'll be gone, and they can, complain to the next president. This awful guy was in there, and they let him bulldoze stuff. So, but I just wanted to let y'all know it is going to go away.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Barb.
All right, meeting schedule and location.
That's up there.
Your phone.
Check my phone.
She's been texting you.
He doesn't know how to
He
get
was
to
busy.
it.
Oh, great news. Kara just informed me that we got our Department of Labor, I don't know what WORC stands for, grant with App Harvest, who's been next door, for $974,943. That is awesome. That is.
Don't text me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news, Kara.
She's still there?
I see her little icon. But this is a grant we had.
here.
See ya.
How about that? That's great news.
We worked on that for a long time.
Yes, you have.
All right.
So kudos to you and your folks, and I know that's, App Harvest is gonna be a great partner for the region and the state, and they're gonna do many great things, and, if you haven't driven by the facility, it's hard to look at it, so it's 60,000 acres under glass.
What's 60,000?
Wow.
60 acres,
60
right?
acres.
1 million square feet or whatever, but it's the 9th largest facility of its type in the world. And
Yeah.
It's huge. Look at over there, so. That's
Kara
great
should get her
news.
own fogger.
Really?
Kara should get her own personal fogger.
We'll work.
Oh,
Kara with her-
I'm excited for it. I hope Brittany's excited for it too, because she's gonna have to administer the grant. Ah. But, good job.
Yeah, excellent. That is terrific news. We've been waiting to hear from that, so
Good news.
good news. Okay.
Next meetings.
So we had spoken a little bit about it, Avi and I and Russ, about our next meeting. So on the presidential search, the on-site interviews is tentatively scheduled for November 23rd and 24th. That's the Monday and Tuesday of the week of Thanksgiving. I have those calendar invites sent out tentatively on an Outlook to you all. Those are dates that are sent to us from the system office. So that's when they're planning on having the final candidates for the presidential search on all 4 of our campuses to tour and interview and things like that. And they will be interviewing you all on those dates. There's going to be more information to come. I'll send you all more as far as specific details, schedule, room locations, things like that. But typically we have our next meeting sometimes in December, sometimes in January. So it is up to you all, but since your next presidential search in person for those interviews will be in November, it may be best to hold off until after we get those, those finished. This item will have the next regularly scheduled meeting. So that may be something that you all can discuss after your last interview when you're all together doing those on the Maysville campus, and we can look at what works best for the group in December or January. If we have the meeting in December, then that would, right after, before we have our Christmas break, holiday break, and then January, if you wait until maybe the end of January, the new president, if the timeline follows like it should, it would be with the new president.
I suggest that we wait until the January. We'll have plenty between now and then, and we don't even know what exactly takes place. So might as well.
Amanda, you say these are all day. What time historically are we talking about here?
I'll have to look at the exact schedule. Most of the board interviews are in the afternoon.
Okay.
Usually I think they're after 2:30, and they usually last until around 5:30, give or take. The second day is the Tuesday is going to be the longer of the two, because that's when you all will have your deliberations after the final interview to make a recommendation to others of five.
When does faculty and staff get to meet them at the various campuses? I mean, is there a certain day already set aside during that same time too?
It's not during the same time, so there will be a community forum and then a faculty staff. There's going to be a forum in the morning on both days. They plan for anywhere between 3 and 4 candidates. If there's 3, there will be 2 candidates for a forum on the first day, and then 1 on the second, or 2 and 2, depending on. And the 2 that aren't, so you all would interview 2 on one day, and then either do 1 and then the deliberations, or 2 and then 2 in the deliberation. And then they would they rotate, so all 4 or 3 candidates would be on the same campus. Whenever 1 is on the Maysville campus doing their interviews and forums, the other 2 or 1 would be traveling to visit all the other campuses before all of them while they're in.
Thank you.
So we're all in agreement to wait until we finish this and then we'll decide. Is that okay?
So I'll probably reach out to everyone. You all will be, of course, seeing me on the Maysville campus during the presidential on-site visit. I'll be there kind of
directing you all to rooms, getting anything you need. And then after that, then I'll start sending out emails and we can all decide on.
Sounds good. Any other announcement? Anyone has anything to say? Any motion to adjourn? Thank you again, everyone, and again, I want to thank and congratulate the faculty and staff and a great conductor. Proud of you.
Please be safe returning to your.
Be careful.
Yes, you too.
It's good to see you. Thanks for serving on the committee again.
Yes, glad to. Well, you make it.
Well,
Yeah.
I like having the staff before it goes to